Jungkook cried alone after Jimin's betrayal. Until he found this, you were never supposed to find out. The gun trembled in Jimin's hand, his breath ragged beneath the cold soul rain as lightning cracked the sky. Across from him, soaked and trembling, Jungkook's voice broke, not from fear but disbelief. You lied to me, Jungkook whispered, the words barely louder than the thunder. All this time, the warehouse stank of gasoline and betrayal. Rusted metal echoed every footstep. Shattered glass glittered like broken promises beneath their feet. Jimin didn't respond, not with words. His eyes said enough. Regret. Desperation. Guilt. A second later, the sirens howled. 3 hours earlier, Jungkook had been standing alone on the rooftop of HYBE's private training facility, phone clutched in a shaking hand. He had replayed the voice note 100 times, and every time, the same voice chilled his bones. Jimin's voice. He doesn't need to know. He's too loyal. It'll ruin him. Jungkook's stomach twisted. The scent of Jimin's cologne still lingered on the hoodie he wore, gifted just 2 weeks ago. Everything felt like a lie. Their late-night talks. The secret songs. The way Jimin once held his hand when he thought no one was watching. Was it all a cover? No. Not Jimin. Not his Jimin. But truth hits hardest when it comes in whispers from the ones we love. Jungkook had always chased perfection, not for the fame, but to be seen beyond the spotlight. Behind the abs and tattoos was a boy afraid of abandonment, scarred by past friendships that dissolved under pressure. Jimin had promised he was different. That he wouldn't walk away, and now that night, Jungkook didn't sleep. He sat in the empty dance studio until dawn, staring at the mirrored walls, remembering every moment, their first duet, Jimin's shaky laugh, how their pinkies had brushed during rehearsals like it meant something. The betrayal wasn't in words. It was in silence. In what Jimin chose to hide. By noon, Jungkook had a plan. If Jimin wouldn't tell him the truth, he'd find it himself. He hacked the studio's cloud server. Jimin's access logs, secret messages. It was all there. Redacted documents. Financial transfers. Unauthorized entry to a restricted wing of the company's HQ marked Project Seraph. He dug deeper. The deeper he went, the colder it got. There was a video file encrypted, the title, JK_breakglass.mp, for it shouldn't exist. No one called him JK anymore. Not since the last tour. He clicked play. Jimin's face appeared on screen. Hollow. Tear-streaked. Lit only by the blue glow of a monitor behind him. If you're watching this, Jimin said, voice trembling, then I failed. And I'm sorry. You were never supposed to be part of this. I tried to keep you out. But they threatened to erase everything. Not just our songs. Us. Jungkook blinked, breath caught in his throat. You remember the fire in Busan? It wasn't an accident. It was the start. They're erasing idols who know too much. You stumbled too close. You were asking the wrong questions. I had to lie. If I didn't, they would have killed you. The video ended. Jungkook collapsed to his knees outside, the sky darkened. The betrayal wasn't betrayal. It was a sacrifice, and now, Jungkook was alone again. But he wasn't broken. Someone was pulling strings. Someone who thought he'd crumble. They were wrong, because Jungkook wasn't crying anymore. He was remembering, and he was going to burn it all down to get him back. The lie beneath the stage. You think you know everything, don't you? The words exploded like a bullet in the silence, ricocheting off the concrete walls of the hidden basement beneath HYBE's main building. Jungkook turned sharply, his heart hammering in his chest, breath ragged from the sprint down the emergency stairwell. The voice was familiar, but twisted. Bitter. Tired. Taehyung stepped out from the shadows, eyes cold, a smirk curling at the corner of his mouth like a blade. He looked different, leaner, more dangerous. The warmth that once lit his eyes during late-night ramen runs was gone. What are you doing here? Jungkook asked, fists clenched. Taehyung shrugged, tossing a silver flash drive into the air before catching it again. Looking for ghosts. Like you. Jungkook's eyes narrowed. I saw the footage, Taehyung. Jimin was covering for someone. I thought maybe you were. Don't, Taehyung snapped. Don't pretend like you're the only one who lost something. Jungkook took a cautious step forward, the air between them crackling with unresolved pain. Then help me. We can find out who's behind this. Project Seraph, Taehyung barked out a bitter laugh. You think Seraph is just a project? It's a purge. What do you mean? Jungkook whispered. Taehyung's face twisted. Do you remember the night we debuted? The rooftop, the promise we made to each other? No matter what happens, we stay real. He took a shaky breath. They erased Hoseok's backup files, Jungkook. His entire composition archive, gone. They threatened Yoongi with exposure, Namjoon with legal blackmail. And Jin. Jin hasn't been in Argentina. That was a cover. Jungkook staggered back as if punched. They silenced us, Taehyung continued. One by one. Jimin made a deal. Not because he wanted to betray you. Because he thought he could contain the fire. Jungkook's throat closed. So, what now? Now. Taehyung smiled darkly. We light a bigger one. The rehearsal room felt like a tomb. Mirrors covered in black cloth, instruments unplugged, microphones dead. Jungkook stood in the center, watching the security feed on his phone. Jimin hadn't come in for 2 days. Not since the warehouse incident, and then he saw him. Jimin, hoodie pulled up, slipping through the side door of the parking garage. Jungkook didn't hesitate. He ran. Outside, the rain fell like knives, slicing through the Seoul night. Jungkook's boots splashed through puddles, breath fogging in the winter air. He caught up with Jimin 2 blocks down, near the abandoned theater they used to sneak into during trainee days. Jimin, he shouted. Jimin froze, spine rigid. Don't run, Jungkook said, softer now, voice shaking. Please. Jimin turned slowly. His eyes were red, rimmed with exhaustion. You shouldn't be here. You lied to me, Jungkook said. But I saw the video. Jimin's shoulders sagged. So what now? Jungkook asked. You disappear. Pretend none of it happened. You think I can go back to smiling on camera while everything we built burns from the inside? I was trying to protect you. Jimin's voice cracked, raw and real. I watched them destroy the others. I watched them threaten your family, your future, your heart, and I made a choice. I chose to carry the guilt so you could survive. Survive as what? Jungkook stepped forward. A shell. A puppet. I'd rather die than live not knowing what's real anymore. Jimin's lip trembled. You don't mean that. I mean every damn word. Silence. Jimin closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had shifted. Fine, he said quietly. You want the truth? Come with me. The safe house was hidden behind a noodle shop in Itaewon. Jimin keyed in a code that triggered a metal shutter to rise from beneath the ground. They walked into a hallway lit by faint red lights. The air smelled like gun oil and old secrets. Inside, 2 figures sat at a table covered with old lyric sheets, surveillance photos, and torn contracts. Yoongi? Jungkook breathed. Yoongi looked up, face gaunt, eyes dark. He didn't smile. Took you long enough. Beside him, a familiar face stared out from the shadows. Hoseok. They said you disappeared, Jungkook whispered. I did, Hoseok replied, voice low. But only because we needed to dig deeper. Seraph isn't just about controlling music. It's about rewriting memory. Fabricating history. Jungkook turned to Jimin. How deep does this go? Jimin hesitated. Remember the black van that followed us during the Love Yourself tour? Jungkook nodded slowly. It wasn't paparazzi, Jimin said. It was surveillance. HYBE partnered with a private defense contractor called Solis. They developed a program to identify high-influence figures and suppress them before they became unpredictable. We're not idols to them, we're assets. If we rebel, we get wiped. Wiped. Socially. Financially. Emotionally. Deleted from the narrative. Jungkook felt his knees weaken. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Jimin's eyes welled up. Because I loved you too much to risk you breaking. Something cracked in Jungkook's chest. He crossed the room, fists balled at his sides. Then he hugged him tight. Shaking. Silent. Jimin sobbed. It wasn't forgiveness. It was war. And it had just begun. The next morning, every major news outlet received an anonymous leak. A 45-second clip. Unedited footage of a secret boardroom at HYBE, time-stamped 2 years ago. One voice. Erase minute Yoongi. Begin Seraph Phase 2. If Park Jimin resists, neutralize. The clip went viral in minutes, and the world began to question everything it ever believed about the kings of K-pop. Do you really think the world will believe us? Namjoon's voice was calm, but it carried the weight of 1,000 unsaid things. He stood in the corner of the safe house, arms crossed, his jaw tight with quiet rage. He had arrived 2 hours after the footage leak, called in by a scrambled signal Hoseok had been keeping for emergencies only. His return was a shock to Jungkook. He'd thought Namjoon had been silenced like the others. But no, he had been waiting. Calculating. Watching, they already do, Yoongi said, tapping at his laptop. The video hit over 30 million views in the first hour. Reddit's on fire. Journalists are calling HYBE for comment, and so far, they've only released a vague statement denying baseless conspiracy theories. That's how you know we hit a nerve. Hoseok smirked without humor. Let them squirm. Jimin sat silently in the corner, eyes hollow. He hadn't said a word since last night, when Jungkook embraced him and shattered the dam of silence that had trapped them both. Jungkook paced. He hadn't slept, and it showed. His eyes were bloodshot, shirt damp with sweat, his fists clenched like he was holding in a scream. This isn't enough, he muttered. They'll spin it. Call it AI generated. Say it's a deepfake. They'll discredit us before lunch. They'll try, Namjoon agreed. But if we keep the pressure on, they won't have time to recover. We don't just need to expose the truth, we need to dismantle the illusion. How? Jungkook asked, exasperated. They control everything: media, law, distribution. Even fan communities. We're fighting a machine. No, Yoongi corrected. We are the machine. They just forgot who built it. Taehyung entered, tossing a manila envelope onto the table. This just came in from our source inside HYBE. It's a list. Jungkook snatched it up, his eyes scanning the pages. His heart stopped there, in neat black print, under the heading Neutralization Targets, Priority Tier 1, were 6 names: Jeon, Jungkook, Park Jimin, Kim, Namjoon, Minute, Yoongijung, Hoseok, Kim, Taehyung. Jungkook's voice was ice. They've marked us all. And not just us, Taehyung said. There's another tier. Tier 2. It's filled with staff, dancers, stylists. People who know too much. People we care about. Jimin finally stood, face pale. Then we need to get them out. Now. You don't get to give orders, Namjoon snapped suddenly, turning on him. You handed us over to them. Jimin met his gaze, unflinching. I handed myself over. So you could live. Don't romanticize it, Namjoon growled. You lied to us. You let them tear us apart. I did what I had to, Jimin shouted, fists clenched. I was drowning. I thought if I just held the weight alone, maybe the rest of you could fly. And look where we landed, Hoseok muttered. Yoongi raised a hand, silencing the room. Enough. If we're going to survive this, we have to be united. Even if we hate each other for it. Jungkook turned away, biting back a scream. The taste of betrayal still lingered on his tongue, but deeper than that, grief. The grief of watching everything he believed in collapse. Suddenly, the alarm shrieked. Red lights blared through the safe house. They found us, Taehyung hissed. Yoongi cursed under his breath, grabbing hard drives. Move. Go to sub-level B. Outside, the streets exploded with chaos. Black SUVs screeched around corners. Men in tactical gear spilled into the alleyways, armed and silent. Jungkook, Jimin, and Hoseok bolted through the emergency tunnel beneath the noodle shop, the echo of boots pounding behind them. Namjoon stayed behind with Yoongi and Taehyung to cover the exit. They burst out into the metro tunnel, where grime and steel swallowed them whole. The air was thick with damp air and adrenaline. We're not going to outrun them, Jimin gasped. We're not supposed to, Jungkook said grimly, pulling out a key fob and hitting a button from behind. A deafening explosion erupted as the tunnel collapsed. A firewall, temporary but effective, Hoseok blinked. Was that Plan C? Jungkook muttered. Yoongi said to use it if things got bad. It'll buy us 5 minutes. Jimin looked at him. You're different. Jungkook's jaw flexed. You made me different. The 3 of them stumbled into the maintenance corridor, which led into an abandoned shopping district underground, a relic from the 90s boom that never finished. Neon signs flickered overhead, forgotten memories of a city that never cared who it left behind. They caught their breath beneath a shattered escalator. Hoseok slid to the floor, exhaling. Okay. So. We're fugitives. Again. We were always fugitives, Jimin said softly. We just didn't know it. Jungkook sat down, eyes distant. When did the music stop being real? Jimin's reply was a whisper. When they decided our truth was too loud. The quiet lingered, heavy, bitter, unresolved. And then a voice crackled from the comms unit Hoseok had stuffed in his jacket. Yoongi, go dark. Repeat, go dark. Namjoon's compromised. He's been taken. Do not return. Find Jin. He's the only one who knows the back door. The line cut. Jungkook felt the floor drop from under him. No. No. Not Namjoon. Jimin's hand touched his shoulder, trembling. We'll get him back. But he was right. We need Jin. Hoseok stood slowly. You guys remember what Jin used to say, when the cameras were off? They both looked at him. Hoseok smiled faintly, tears brimming. If they ever take me, just follow the moon. Jungkook looked up. There, in the cracked glass dome overhead, the moon hung, full and silent. And somewhere, Jin was watching, waiting, and maybe, just maybe, planning the endgame. The sea air reeked of salt and old blood. Jungkook stepped off the stolen delivery van and onto the crumbling pier, his hoodie pulled low, concealing his face. Beside him, Jimin's eyes darted nervously between the shadows, one hand instinctively brushing the cold steel hidden under his coat. Hoseok stayed behind the wheel, engine humming low, ready to peel away if things went wrong. This is it? Jimin asked, voice low. Jungkook nodded. This is the place. They stood before an abandoned lighthouse, its skeletal frame silhouetted against the moonlit sky. It hadn't been active for years, officially condemned, unsafe, forgotten by time. But it was marked on an old postcard that Jin once gave Jungkook after the Love Yourself tour, a postcard with one cryptic line written on the back in silver ink: if I disappear, come home. It wasn't poetic anymore. It was a goddamn map. Jungkook approached the rusted gate and pushed it open. The hinges wailed like ghosts. Inside, the air was thick with damp and mildew. Cracked photos of seafarers hung askew on the peeling walls. An old radio crackled to life as they passed, spitting static before falling silent again. Place gives me the creeps, Jimin muttered. Jungkook walked straight to the center of the floor, where the faded symbol of a compass rose was painted. He dropped to one knee and knocked on the wood. Hollow. He pressed his palm against the rose's center. A hiss. A click. The floor gave way. They descended into darkness. The room beneath was small, circular, and humming with hidden power. Screens flickered silently along the wall, each showing still images of them: Jungkook dancing, Jimin laughing backstage, Hoseok running in the rain. Memories. Then, from the far side of the chamber, a voice, warm, unshaken. I wondered how long it would take you. Jin stood in the doorway. He looked older, like time had carved into him with a sculptor's blade. But his eyes still held the same fierce intelligence, the same calculating softness that once led them through chaos. Jungkook swallowed a gasp. Hyung, Jin smiled. Miss me? Jimin didn't hesitate. Where the hell have you been? Jin tilted his head. Watching. Listening. Surviving. They thought I was out of the picture, but I've been living beneath it. He turned to the wall and tapped a code into a dusty panel. A hidden server rack slid into view. I found the archive, Jin said. The original files. Everything they've scrubbed from the public record. Full footage of the Busan fire. Internal memos detailing the Seraph initiative. Brainwave monitoring contracts. Psychological manipulation tools developed through our VR concert platforms. Jungkook's stomach dropped. They were experimenting on us. Not just us, Jin said, face hardening. The fans too. Jimin paled. No, they used the fanlight syncing tech. Micropulses. Frequency-based influence. Nothing overt, just nudges. Mood shifts. Reinforcement loops. Positive feedback cycles tied to specific lyrical content and idle expressions. They weaponized our connection, Hoseok breathed, stepping down into the bunker. Jin nodded grimly. They studied how love turns to worship. Then how worship turns to obedience. Jungkook turned away, bile rising. All this time, we thought we were healing people. We were, Jin said softly. But they turned that into something else. Jimin looked up, eyes blazing. Then we expose it. All of it. Jin shook his head. It won't be enough. What do you mean? Hoseok asked. They don't just control media. They own the legal system, the music platforms, the telecoms. The video you leaked was a start, but they've already flagged it as manipulated. Disinformation. The narrative's shifting again. Reddit mods are being paid off. YouTube is shadow banning anything with the tag #serifTruth. Then what's the plan? Jungkook demanded. Jin looked at him for a long moment. We don't just reveal the truth. We perform it. Jimin frowned. What? We go live. One final performance. Unfiltered. Unapproved. No handlers, no corporations. Just us and the world. They'll shut it down, Hoseok said. Not if we hijack their own system, Jin replied. The HYBE global stream server. It still runs on the prototype RM7 backbone. And I built the exploit years ago before they kicked me out. If we upload through that, we can override every official channel connected to HYBE's network, streaming apps, smart TVs, mobile feeds. Every screen will play us. Like an apocalypse broadcast, Jimin whispered. Exactly. Jungkook's heart raced. What do we show? Everything, Jin said. But not as whistleblowers. As artists. We use the only language they haven't censored yet. Music, performance, emotion, but it has to cost us, Jin added. Or no one will believe it's real. Silence, Hoseok nodded slowly. Then let's make them feel it. Jungkook stepped forward, eyes burning. And let them try to shut us up. Later that night, the group sat in a circle beneath the lighthouse, scripting the performance in hushed tones. No stylists. No CGI. Just shadows, spotlights, and truth. A set list of memories, rewritten with honesty. Hidden lyrics. Uncoded harmonies. Every movement a confession. Every note a wound. I want to open with euphoria, Jungkook said quietly. But change the second verse. Make it darker. Do it, Jin said. Jimin raised his hand. I want to speak between songs. Not scripted. Just me. Do it, Jungkook echoed. Hoseok nodded. I'll dance the burn. The warehouse fire. Let them see the collapse in real time. And the ending. Yoongi's voice crackled through Jin's secure line from an undisclosed location. Jin answered slowly. We let Jungkook decide. This started with his pain. Everyone turned to him. Jungkook looked out the shattered window, the moonlight casting soft silver on his face. We end it, he said, with silence. They didn't ask why. They understood, because sometimes, the loudest rebellion is the one that leaves the audience breathless, and somewhere, across oceans and borders, fans began to whisper to one another in secret hashtags. #follow the moon, #this is not a dream, #they're coming back. The countdown had begun. The control room smelled like cold metal and dusted rebellion. Every wire, every monitor, every flickering signal felt like a heartbeat counting down to war. Jin stood at the helm, fingers dancing over the keys, sweat beading on his brow. A single misstep, and years of planning would dissolve into nothing. They had exactly 23 minutes before HYBE's internal security sweep would discover the exploit Jin had embedded in their global broadcast server. Jungkook adjusted the MIC strap to his chest, the weight of it pressing against his ribs like a confession he wasn't sure he could survive. Jimin was in the makeshift dressing room, really just an old janitor's closet, hunched over a cracked mirror, reapplying black liner with shaking hands. Hoseok stretched silently on the studio floor, every movement a slow exorcism of the fear crawling beneath his skin. Taehyung wasn't there. He'd gone dark 2 nights ago. No signal. No message. No sign of struggle, just gone. Jungkook tried not to think about it. Tried not to imagine Taehyung's body dumped in some back alley, or worse, imprisoned in one of HYBE's black sites, his voice stripped from every server, his face erased from every fan cam. HYBE didn't kill people with bullets. They did it with silence. With forgetting. You okay? Jimin's voice was soft behind him. Jungkook didn't answer right away. He was staring at the old soundboard, the same model they used during their first dorm-recorded mixtapes. Simpler times. When betrayal was just a word in a lyric, not a storm swallowing everything. I keep thinking about the first time I heard your voice, he said. Before we debuted. You were in the practice room, singing to yourself. I remember stopping in the hallway and, I don't know. It felt like hearing something sacred. Jimin looked away. Don't say that. Why not? Because I'm the reason you lost everything. No, Jungkook said firmly, eyes burning. You're the reason I didn't lose myself. A chime interrupted them, 10 minutes to broadcast. Positions. Jin called, they took their places in the darkened soundstage beneath the lighthouse. A single overhead spotlight illuminated the cracked floor. No stagehands. No producers. Just a camera and the truth. Yoongi's pre-recorded opening played first. His voice came through like thunder on a prayer. You think you know us. You think you own us. You sold our faces, our voices, our grief. Now we're taking it back. The screen cut to black and then, Jungkook stepped forward. No fanfare. No intro, just him, standing alone, eyes red, voice low. I loved music before I loved myself, he said. And then you turned that love into a leash. He raised the mic, the first note of Euphoria played, slower, heavier, the melody twisted into something bruised. He changed the verse, just as he'd promised. You said I was your heaven, while you set fire to the sky. The world paused, millions of viewers tuned in, phones vibrating with the unexpected stream. Fans screamed in confusion. The chat exploded. Is this real? Is this happening? Why does he look like he's crying? Because he was. By the second chorus, Jimin had joined him, harmonizing through tears. His voice cracked, raw, unfiltered. The lyrics were different too, laced with hidden phrases that only true fans would catch. Lines that hinted at surveillance, manipulation, control. Then came Hoseok. He danced in silence. No music. Just his body thrashing against gravity, moving like a man trying to escape chains only he could see. His breath was audible. His knees bruised on the concrete. Blood bloomed on his palms when he hit the ground, over and over, in time with the beat that only lived inside his memory. A message appeared in the corner of the screen. This is not a performance. The feed nearly crashed. FB's security team scrambled across their command center, fingers flying across keyboards, trying to shut down the stream. But Jin's code held strong. Every server they redirected only mirrored the performance louder. Then came the reveal. Jin stepped into the frame, holding a hard drive in one hand and a letter in the other. Do you want proof? He asked the camera. Here. He dropped the drive on the floor, then lit it on fire because it was never about files. It was never about contracts. It was about trust. And you broke it. Jimin walked to him and read the letter aloud. A resignation letter, from Kim Seokjin. Addressed to HYBE, I resign not as an idol, but as your hostage. The feed cut to footage never before seen, backstage breakdowns, forced smiles, rehearsals at 3 a.m., medics injecting adrenaline before performances. Voicemail threats from anonymous numbers. A hidden camera showing a black-clad executive whispering to Jimin behind a locked door. They let it play, they let the world see, and then the lights dimmed. The final song began. Not a hit. Not a title track. Just an unreleased demo. 1 written by Jungkook, alone in his dorm, after Taehyung disappeared. Titled, If I'm Gone Tomorrow. The lyrics carved through the silence like knives. Will you remember my voice, or only the version you downloaded? Will you know my truth, or just my lighting angles? As the final note rang out, the screen faded to black. Then a message appeared. We were never yours to own. And in that moment, HYBE's servers imploded. Every attempt to block the stream redirected viewers to new mirrors. Hacktivists across the globe amplified it. Journalists began printing names. And fans who had once wept over albums and lightsticks, took to the streets. But inside the lighthouse bunker, no one spoke. Jungkook sat on the floor, eyes closed. Jimin knelt beside him, head on his shoulder. Jin stared at the screen, watching the numbers climb. And then Hoseok's phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. 1 word, alive. Jungkook grabbed the phone. The location ping was attached, coordinates north. Taehyung. He was alive, but so was someone else because at that very moment, Within a boardroom cloaked in shadows, an older man turned to the security footage of the broadcast and smiled. "They think this is the climax," he said, lighting a cigar. "Fools. They've only just reached the interlude." The snow was falling sideways, thick flakes lashing against the windshield as the van barreled through the mountain road, its tires biting into black ice and slush. Jungkook sat shotgun, his jaw tense, his eyes locked on the screen of Hoseok's phone as the GPS coordinates flickered, recalibrated, then reappeared, blinking like a heartbeat. Taehyung was alive. Somewhere in these mountains, in a compound that didn't officially exist, the van's heater had died hours ago. Everyone's breath fogged the air inside, making it feel more like a tomb than a rescue mission. But no one spoke of turning back. Jimin sat curled in the backseat, headphones on, mouthing lyrics to a song they'd never release. Jin sat beside him, whispering instructions to Yoongi through an encrypted line: relay points, drone reckon, blind spots. Every move mattered now. 2 clicks east, Hoseok muttered, slowing the van. "There's a break in the fence." "There shouldn't be a fence," Jungkook said. "This place doesn't even show up on satellite." "Which means it's real," Jin replied. "The more invisible something is, the more powerful it is." They reached the breach, a narrow cut in the electrified barrier, partially hidden by a fallen pine. The compound beyond was silent, surrounded by forest, its architecture brutalist and cold. "A fortress built not to protect, but to trap." 30 minutes, Jin whispered. "We're in, we find Taehyung, we ghost out. We don't try to be heroes." Jimin pulled off his headphones. Too late for that. They moved like shadows. The compound's interior was sterile. Steel corridors, fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying bees. No guards. No alarms. Just the quiet hum of something that knew it was being watched. Jungkook's fists clenched tighter the deeper they went. Every hallway felt like déjà vu, like a distorted memory of training centers from their past. The same white paint. The same perfectly aligned mirrors. But here, there were no reflections. Just glass that never returned their faces. "Where is everyone?" Hoseok whispered. "They want us here," Jin said. "They're waiting." As if summoned by the words, a voice erupted from hidden speakers. Calm. Warm. Cruel. Jeon Jungkook. Park Jimin. Jung Hoseok. Kim Seokjin. "Welcome home." Jimin froze. That voice, Jungkook's breath caught. "Chairman Lee." "Ah," the voice continued. "You remember me. That's flattering. But let's not pretend this wasn't inevitable. You've all been very noisy lately." A door at the end of the corridor opened with a hiss. A room bathed in gold light. Inside, Taehyung sat shackled to a chair. His head was down, hair damp with sweat. Electrodes were attached to his temples. His shirt was torn, chest rising and falling too quickly. When he looked up, his lips curled into a tired smile. "Took you long enough," he croaked. Jungkook ran to him, but the moment he crossed the threshold, a wall of electricity surged up between them. He was thrown back, body slamming against the metal floor. "And oh!" Jimin screamed, lunging forward, but Jin grabbed him. "It's a trap," Jin hissed. "You think I don't know that?" Jimin spat. "But he's right there." A panel slid open in the wall, revealing a screen. Chairman Lee appeared, grey suit, silver hair, eyes like frost. Behind him, a row of scientists monitored equipment, scribbling notes, unbothered by the chaos. "You wanted the truth, didn't you?" Lee said. "You thought exposing the Seraph Initiative would bring the world to its knees. But you missed the bigger picture." Jin stepped forward. "Enlighten us." Lee smiled. "You believed this was about control. About suppressing art, limiting speech. No. This has always been about evolution. You were prototypes. Test subjects. Not artists, not idols. Blueprints." Taehyung let out a strangled laugh. "They used our music to calibrate emotional resonance frequencies. Every stage, every comeback, it wasn't for the fans. It was for them. You made people feel things," Lee said, tapping his temple. "You shifted brain chemistry globally. For 15 seconds, billions of people felt the same thing. Do you know what kind of weapon that is?" Jungkook staggered to his feet, fury radiating off him. "So you tortured us. Lied to us. Played God. No, Lee said, face calm. We built gods. But then you started thinking you were human. Jimin stepped forward, tears brimming. We are. Lee tilted his head. Then why do they cry when you smile? Why do they say your names like prayers? Why do they tattoo your pain onto their skin? Silence, Jin whispered. Cut the power. We're ending this. I wouldn't recommend that, Lee said smoothly. The moment you try to override the system, the chair he's in fills his bloodstream with microdoses of neurotoxin. Not lethal unless you make it lethal. Hoseok looked at Taehyung. How long have you been in this place? Taehyung blinked slowly. Long enough to know where the failsafes are. Jungkook's eyes snapped to him. What? Taehyung smiled weakly. Under the chair. Third panel. Flip the switch manually. Lee's smile faltered, but it was too late. Jimin bolted, dove under the field as it dropped for half a second. Sparks burned his jacket, but he didn't stop. He reached the panel, ripped it open, slammed the switch. Everything went black, screams echoed in the dark. Then emergency lights flared red. Jungkook pulled Taehyung out of the chair, arms shaking. We're getting you out. About time, Taehyung whispered, slumping into him. The sirens screamed. Guards flooded the halls, but so did the truth. Jin had triggered the secondary protocol, leaking the footage, the dialogue, the data. Every word Chairman Lee had said was now streaming across every major news outlet in real time. IT was over. Or it should have been, because as they fought their way out, through bullets and blood and fire, Jungkook realized something chilling. Chairman Lee hadn't fought to stop them. He had wanted this, and as the team collapsed into a stolen chopper, flying into the storm-racked night, Jin checked the final data burst. His hands trembled. IT wasn't just music data that had been activated during the broadcast. IT was a signal.to something else.to someone else. And buried in the metadata, one line: Phase 3 initiated. Reset countdown, T-10 days. The whir of the helicopter blades was the only sound above the roaring wind and distant thunder. Jungkook sat with his arms wrapped around Taehyung's shaking frame, eyes locked on the flickering emergency display inside the cockpit. Rain slapped the windshield like a war drum. Below them, the forest stretched into shadow, hiding the compound they had just escaped, a graveyard of secrets now burning beneath the storm. Jin sat beside the pilot, laptop balanced on his knees, his expression pale and unreadable. Jimin leaned forward, voice cracking against the noise. What does it mean? He shouted over the static. What the hell is Phase 3? Jin didn't answer. Jungkook barked. Talk to us. Jin's fingers danced across the keyboard, pulling up lines of code, files, fragments of decrypted audio. Then, finally, his voice, tight and hollow. It's not just about us anymore. It never was. Jimin staggered toward him, grabbing the edge of the seat. What are you saying? Jin turned the screen so they could all see. A waveform pulsed. Familiar. Chilling, the exact emotional resonance frequency embedded in their old tracks, the same frequency HYB used to influence fans during performances. But this version was different. It was amplified, repetitive, and globally embedded across multiple platforms, streaming services, smart TVs, in-store audio systems, even phone ringtones. Jin's voice was hoarse. They've weaponized it. They're calling it the reset signal. On day 0, they'll synchronize a global broadcast. A final resonance sweep. It'll wipe emotional identity. Clean slate. Mass sedation of effective response. You'll feel whatever they want you to feel, or nothing at all. Hoseok stared, horrified. You mean like mass emotional lobotomy? Jin nodded. Jimin's face twisted in disbelief. How is that even legal? It's not, Jin said. That's the point. Yoongi's voice crackled through the comms again, sharp with urgency. You're not gonna like this. The reset signal, it's already started soft transmission tests. Micropulses are going out through default audio systems. I traced one in a toy commercial. Taehyung coughed violently, struggling to speak. They're not targeting resistance. They're targeting innocence. Jungkook clenched his fists. How long do we have? 10 days, Jin said. Maybe less. The helicopter landed on a remote rooftop in Incheon, a safe house cloaked beneath an abandoned aerospace testing center. As they climbed down, Thunder rolled like a warning from the gods themselves. Inside, the safe house buzzed with life. Yoongi stood at a massive digital board, images and code flowing across screens. Several allies, former stylists, producers, even a few rogue journalists, moved through the room with purpose. Eyes haunted but determined, Jimin looked around. "This is a rebellion," Yoongi said simply. "The kind they hoped would never come." Jungkook laid Taehyung down on a couch, covering him with a blanket. "He needs rest." "He'll get it," Hoseok said. "When we win." Jin stepped to the center of the room, his voice sharp. "They want to rewrite the emotional DNA of the world. To control love, rage, grief, connection. But here's the irony. The only way to beat a signal like that is with a stronger one." Jimin caught on. "A counter-broadcast." "Yes," Jin said. "Not just a leak. Not just a performance. We hit back, same day, same time. But this time, we don't expose their lies, we reignite what it means to feel." Yoongi zoomed in on a schematic of an old broadcast tower one HYBE had buried beneath a corporate shell, long forgotten. "This station predates their system," he said. "Analog roots. No digital footprint. If we hijack it, we can amplify a signal strong enough to blanket their own." Jungkook exhaled. "A war of frequencies." "Exactly. But it wouldn't be easy." The station was guarded. Not by traditional security, but by a psychological firewall. A synthetic agent known only as the Composer, an AI built on billions of emotional data points from every idol HYB had ever trained, copied, used. "The Composer isn't just code," Jin explained. "It's us. Our voice samples. Our expressions. Our tears." Jimin's skin crawled. "They made a machine out of our souls." "They did," Jin said. "And it's defending the tower. So we have to beat ourselves," Hoseok said slowly. "No," Jungkook said, his voice steady. "We have to remind the world who we really are. Not the idols. Not the products. The people." They spent the next 2 days planning, programming, rehearsing. Every note of the counter-broadcast was written not to manipulate, but to awaken. Jin composed the bass track using ancient analog synths, sounds that couldn't be replicated digitally. Yoongi layered in beats from their childhood, sounds of home, of grief, of resilience. Jimin crafted the spoken word sections, raw confessions. Jungkook rewrote the harmonies with trembling fingers, pouring every scar, every betrayal, every moment he ever doubted his own worth into the melody. Then the storm came. Not of nature, but of power. On day 9, all digital screens across South Korea turned white. A soft tone played for exactly 15 seconds. Millions felt nothing. No panic. No rage. No love, just numbness, blank. And that night, fans began to forget. They forgot the lyrics to their favorite songs, they forgot why they loved, they forgot them. Jungkook stood in the control room, shaking. "They're erasing us." Taehyung, still weak but awake now, looked up at him. "Then we scream louder." Day 10. The final broadcast. The group approached the hidden station as the sun set behind the broken skyline. It stood like a monolith, half buried in vines and rust. Inside, the Composer waited. The door creaked open. A voice spoke from every direction, layered, fractured. "You were born from me. You owe me your light." Jungkook stepped forward. "No. You stole our shadows and called them symphonies. We're taking them back." The Composer answered not with words, but with a wall of synthetic sound. Voices, their voices, distorted and twisted into lies. But Jin was faster. He keyed in the analog override, slamming the tape into the deck. "Now," he barked. Jimin stepped to the mic, his voice breaking. "Honest. Do you remember your first concert? That heartbeat when the lights went down?" Yoongi added the drums. "That's real." Hoseok danced, not for show, but like he was breaking chains. "That's real." Jungkook sang, not perfectly but with truth. "That's real." And it was, across the world, the signal pierced the fog. It shattered the pulse. It cracked the silence. People cried, people screamed, people felt, and as the tower shuddered, as the Composer wailed and collapsed into static, as the reset signal disintegrated into ash, the world remembered. Their names, their songs, their souls, and in the silence after the final note, as the broadcast faded, Jungkook whispered into the mic, "We're still here." And millions whispered back, "So are we." The aftermath was not quiet. The world didn't bow its head in solemn applause or offer flowers at their feet. It shook. It trembled. It woke up. For the first time in years, the news wasn't about scandals or manipulated headlines. It was about truth. The reset signal failed, its infrastructure exposed, corrupted beyond repair by Jin's counter-broadcast. Government officials scrambled to respond to the leak. Lawsuits erupted like wildfires across continents. Fans took to the streets not to scream at stadiums, but to defend something deeper, the right to feel freely. And in the center of the storm, 7 voices held the line. They didn't return to stages, they didn't sit for interviews, they disappeared. Because the performance wasn't meant to bring them back into fame, it was meant to set them free. In the days following the fall of the composer, fragments of it resurfaced, its code repurposed by anonymous developers into open-source emotional tech. Tools to heal, to teach, to reconnect. What was once a weapon had become a remedy. Hybe, stripped of its mask, tried to pivot, rebranding itself as a victim of rogue elements, blaming the now exposed Chairman Lee, who vanished without a trace. But the damage was irreversible. Investors fled. Fans walked. The machine, once towering and invincible, crumbled into irrelevance. And the boys, no, the men, found quiet. Jimin opened a music therapy center on Jeju Island under a different name, using silence and sound to treat children who'd been emotionally stunted by modern overstimulation. His voice no longer sought applause, just connection. Yoongi disappeared into the mountains, sending back only instrumentals, haunting, beautiful soundscapes that traveled the world without ever needing a face. The music, raw and undiluted, reminded listeners what honesty felt like. Hoseok turned his choreography into protest, leading underground movements through movement alone. His body became the language of resistance, of joy reclaimed. Jin wrote books under a pseudonym, fables about boys made of light and sound who refused to forget who they were. Each one was secretly coded, woven with truths for those who knew how to read between the lines. Namjoon re-emerged as a professor, lecturing quietly on art, culture, and emotional autonomy in a world still learning how to feel again. His classroom was never full, but always sacred. Taehyung, forever the paradox, took to traveling, sending Polaroids from forgotten places, writing cryptic poems in the captions. He never explained them. He didn't have to. And Jungkook, he lived by the ocean. No cameras. No mirrors. Just the sound of waves and the feeling of dirt under his bare feet. Sometimes he sang to the wind, to the gulls, to himself. Sometimes, on quiet nights, a boat would pull up at the shore, and a familiar figure would step out. Jimin. Or Jin. Or all of them. They never called ahead, they didn't have to, because what they had now was beyond the choreography, beyond the spotlight, beyond the applause. They had each other, and the world sang differently now, less polished, more real. No longer addicted to illusion, but finally awake. And if you listened closely on certain nights, in certain corners of the world, you could still hear it, a voice. A melody. A feeling that couldn't be downloaded and never again controlled. Not an ending, just a beginning, and this time, it belonged to them.